The object of Ticket to Ride is to have the highest score at the end of the game, and the way to do this is to make connections between cities with your trains. To start the game, each player takes a scoring token, placing it at the first position at the edge of the board. They also take 45 train tokens of the same color. Next, shuffle the train cards and deal out 4 to each player. Then shuffle the ticket cards and deal out 3 to each player. Put the train deck next to the board and flip over the top 5 cards and lay them out like so. Now, before we go any further, you might notice that the cards in this tutorial might seem a little bigger than the ones that came with your copy of the game. The original cards that came with this version are much smaller. The 1910 expansion to this game comes with larger cards that are easier to handle. Their function remains unchanged though, so they will be what I'll be using for this tutorial. Okay, before a player takes their first turn, they are allowed to look at their ticket cards and decide which ones they want to keep. Each card has a pair of cities that the player will have to connect. The number at the bottom of the ticket indicates how many points the player will gain if they succeed by the end of the game, or lose if they fail. A player must keep at least 2 of these starting tickets, but may keep all 3 if they're feeling brave. Okay, so on a player's turn, they can do one of 3 actions. They may claim a route, draw train cards, or draw ticket cards. To claim a route, a player must discard the same number of train cards as there are sections in the route. The cards must be the same color as each other, and they must match the color of the route as well. For example, this route has 4 white sections, so to claim it, the player needs to lay down 4 white cards. Gray routes do not have designated colors, so these 4 white cards could just as well claim this route instead. Once a route has been claimed, the player covers the sections of the route with their train tokens, and that route is no longer available for other players to play on. There are some places on the map where there are double routes. A player can claim either route they wish, provided they have the right color cards, but if there are 3 players or less, then players will not be allowed to claim the route that's left over. If a player instead decides to draw train cards on their turn, they have a few options. They can draw 2 cards from the train card deck, draw 2 of the face-up train cards, or draw 1 train card from the deck, as well as 1 face-up train card. When a face-up card is drawn, it is immediately replaced by the top card on the deck, so it might be to your advantage to draw them one at a time. And no, there is no hand limit in Ticket to Ride, so it might be a good strategy to bulk up your card count in the early game. And when the deck runs out, shuffle the discard pile thoroughly and replenish the deck. Alright, it's probably a good time to talk about locomotive cards. These are wild cards and can be played as any color to claim a route, and therefore they are quite valuable. This being the case, when a locomotive card is flipped face up, it counts as 2 cards. So if you choose to take a face-up locomotive card, it's the only card you can gain this turn. Furthermore, if you start your turn by drawing 1 card, your second card can't be a face-up locomotive card. Another rule concerning the locomotive cards is if at any time 3 of the 5 face-up train cards are locomotives, all 5 of those cards have to be discarded, and then they are replaced from the top of the train deck. The third and final action available to players is to draw 3 ticket cards. The player may choose to keep any number of these cards, but must keep at least 1 of them, keeping in mind that if they don't finish the connection on the card, then the point value will be subtracted from their total score. Speaking of scoring, let's go over how that works. For every route you claim, you score a certain amount of points. This chart on the board shows how much each route is worth, and when you claim a route, you move your scoring token along the track on the edge of the board accordingly. But the game isn't over until it's over, and that starts when a player is left with 2 or less train tokens at the end of their turn. Each player then gets 1 final turn, after which the players reveal their ticket cards and add or subtract the points they're on. As one final bonus, the player with the longest unbroken line of train tokens receives an additional 10 points. So that's how you play the original version of Ticket to Ride, and there are other versions out there that I may cover in the future, but for now, I'll just leave you with some house rules that my friends and family use to make the game more fun for us. Now, this first one is a fairly popular way to play. Instead of keeping track of your score as you go, wait until the end and take turns counting up your points. This makes the final outcome a surprise for everyone, though it does make it hard to tell if your strategy is working during the game. Now, this next house rule is something that we do when we're playing with 3 players. When it so happens that 3 locomotives are revealed by being flipped over into the face-up section, instead of discarding the whole face-up section and replacing it, each player takes 1 locomotive card. This tends to make the game feel more friendly because everyone's getting something good. It might mess with the balance if you are playing competitively, but between 3 friends, it's just the nice thing to do. And for my last house rule, remember that rule where if you're playing with 2 to 3 players, only 1 route on a double can be claimed? Yeah, forget that one. This house rule brings down the challenge level in exchange for a little less conflict, which may or may not be worth it to you, depending on your group. Anyway, that's all I've got for now, and until next time, this is Hogwash, over and out. Catch you later.